Do not attempt to adjust your podcast player. We are controlling the transmission. We are here to be your guide, helping you to explore local events, the art scene, music, theater, sports, and possibly a conspiracy or two. All here on the GCRX Radio and Podcast Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to In the Metro. Your host, Chuck Hill, Mr. Tim Pearson, and Engineer Bill. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a minute since we've been here live. Yeah, and we're coming to you guys. Where are we coming to you live from?
Live
from Studio B, right here in Granite City. So located right behind Garden Gate Tea Room. Yeah, I'm going to take off my glare blinders here. Right here behind Garden Gate Tea Room in front of Studio C at the Bees Novel Idea Complex.
Yeah, 1400 block of Needering House.
It's kind of nice to have a complex, you know?
And it is a complex.
It just really depends on what kind of complex you have.
I was just thinking that kind of rolled into my head as soon as I said that, that I don't know if it's good to have a complex or not, but it's good to have a building complex.
There you go. There you go.
As long as we're not talking about anything like the Branch Davidian, I mean, I don't think we're housing any kind of like...
That's a compound.
Compound, yeah, okay. All right, yeah, I don't
turbines, who cares?
I bet there's probably a significant amount of our audience that don't know who the Branch Davidians are.
That's true. That's very true. Look it up, Waco,
Texas. No,
because
you talk about Waco, they're going to automatically think of the house flippers.
Oh yeah. So like it nobody remembers that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I remember that was a kid.
But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, if you don't remember it, history has a tendency to repeat itself. Well, I mean, not that I think we're going to
listen, kids, don't join a church cult. It's turned bad several times.
Yeah, and if you do, don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Right. No, yeah.
What
was that one where he took?
That was Jim Johnson.
Jamestown.
Or Jim Jones.
Jonestown.
Yeah, where he took him over to wherever it was, Africa or something like that. I can't remember. A bunch of land, and then they all drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah. And when he says,
for those of you who don't know, it's where the expression "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from.
Yep.
So there's all kinds of crazy crap that goes on out there in the world. So, but before we get into tonight's topic, Kim, how was your weekend?
It was eventful.
As you were explaining earlier.
Yeah.
Be careful, you're on the air now if you decide to go into this.
Yeah. And I will as we get into our topic. Overall, it was some nice weather, a little bit of rain here and there.
A little bit?
Yeah, I'm so done with the rain.
I love rain and I love the thunderstorms. I'm not a big fan of the waterfall that falls off of my roof when we get so much rain, I do need to get up there and check the gutters. I mean, I've checked them before and they've been fine. The problem is we just get so much at one time that, when it's covering the square footage of the roof, it's just coming down super hard into the gutters and it's overflowing.
Yeah.
So love the rain, but we could use a little bit of a break or, some light rain. So.
Yeah, I went on vacation the weekend before. We haven't been here for a minute. Went to what they call, I don't know if they call it this or they call it this themselves, but Tulsa, Oklahoma, the capital of Route 66.
Okay.
It was pretty cool. A lot of roadside attractions. It was a lot of fun. Went to the Buc-ee's for the first time. I'd been to Wally's. It was big, but it wasn't what I thought. It wasn't as big as I was expecting. So when I came across Buc-ee's, I was like, wow, okay.
Did you get some of their beef jerky?
We did buy several kinds of the beef jerky.
Popcorn?
The beaver nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And I was pressured into it. I'm not gonna lie. Every cart I looked, they had one or two bags. And I'm like, why? What are these?
Mm-hmm.
This is the only reason I bought them. And it was like the final thing was when I saw this family of just mom, dad, couple little kids, and they had 6 bags in there. And I'm like, they know something.
Stocking up.
They know something.
Hey, you know, right?
So we bought 3 bags.
All right. They were, so I like the kind of the camp side, like the Buc-ee's. I think it's just right outside of Springfield, Illinois. Like when I'm going to Chicago, I'll stop at Buc-ee's to maybe get something to eat or use the bathroom. Just kind of use it as kind of something to break up the trip.
Yeah.
But they've got a camping display there with like a small trailer and everything else, which is it's kind of cool. It kind of gives you that vibe of I think it's a Buc-ee's, maybe it's a Wally's.
I'm thinking it might be a Wally's because they're the ones that advertised the Winnebago of yesterday.
That's it. Yeah, it is a Wally's. So thank you. Yeah, but it's still kind of cool, to stop at those big. I guess it's a truck stop or whatever.
Yeah, this had like fine art for sale even on the hallways to the bathrooms. There's just this beautiful art.
The one in Georgia had the same thing. Yeah.
How cool is that?
It was neat.
And the brisket, you can smell it throughout the entire store. They sing a song as they're making it right in front of you. That was probably, and I hate to say this because my brother is a certified pit master and has some great burnt ends and briskets, but this was our first meal out of town and our last one coming back. It was that good. The barbecue chopped was nice.
Nice. Engineer Bill, I'm going to ask a slight question for you. I'm noticing, and folks, this is my fault that we're going to interrupt the show here for a minute. Can you correct her camera just a bit where she's a little more on camera? You are the man. I appreciate that. Fiddling around the cameras a little bit today.
If you had just left it where I had it, it was
too
perfect.
far out. Though.
No, it was fine.
It was too far out.
Look, I said it was fine.
So we're a little zoomed in today, kind of trying to fill the frame a little bit more. So you're getting probably a little bit more of Chuck than you normally care for. Or maybe
it's called OCD Chuck.
A little more that's what'd you say?
It's called OCD Chuck.
It's the mostly
OCD
hockey
Chuck,
people.
Yeah.
It's the mostly hockey people.
Yeah. By the way,
Tim,
this is kind of a neat little thing here. I'm not sure if you guys are selling it now or.
And I thought about it was maybe one of ours until we saw your name on it.
Yeah, I thought that this was going to be one of ours, but you've got your name plastered on it. So I'm guessing it's not ours. But I could bring it in the Metro Coffee Cup if you'd like sometime.
Chuck said he's going to piss in it before he leaves.
Oh, my. So, but anyway, Bill, how was your weekend?
Pretty chill. Just worked around the house, did some stuff around there, babysitting my sister's dog while she's out of town. So,
that's always fun.
Cute little dog, a little whiny, but it is what it is.
What kind of dog is it?
It's a mutt. It's a little,
mutt? Okay.
Little bitty mutt. I don't even know, but
sometimes those are the cutest dogs to have.
Yeah, she's cool. She's cuddly, but she is needy. Oh my gosh, she's needy. She has to sleep with people too. So
our dog's pretty needy. She's a very needy dog. Cute. Love this dog.
But needy.
Cute, but oh man, she's so super needy, let me tell you. So yeah, all right, guys. Well, my weekend, pretty fun. The highlight of the weekend, I think, like the big event rather, was the Hootie and the Blowfish show. One of the bands that I've wanted to see since the 90s, since they were big. I've always been a big Hootie fan. Hootie and Spin Doctors have always been kind of on my list. And of course, Billy Joel's coming to town this year. But, now that we technically and finally, officially, that's the word I'm looking for, officially have a wedding to plan for, the concerts this year are probably going to be kept to a minimum. We referred to last year as the Summer of Fun, and it was. We had a great summer. And this year it's kind of like Summer of Fun 2.0. Which, we're going to have some fun things to do this year also, but they're going to be more cost conscious.
Oh, cool.
Got
something to save up for.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. And even more excited that, when I asked, she said yes. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. So that was kind of my weekend. I will tell you, so Hootie and Blowfish, they were the headliners, right? Edwin McCain was the first act. And do you know who Edwin McCain is? The guy's got chops on him. Like I was really, really surprised because I remember the one song he's really famous for. The I'll be better when it was really good. He did some other stuff also, which was really, really good. And then Collective Soul came out, and they were really good too. I mean, they put on a hell of a show. And then Hootie and Blowfish, they came out. And their tour is called Summer Camp with Trucks Tour 2024 or whatever. And I thought, well, that's kind of a weird name, for a tour or whatever. But then there was a section in the show where if you're going to go see them in another state or another city, you might want to turn your volume down or mute it for a minute. But there's a part where they came out, like all four of and it's all four original band members, right? All four came out to the center, stage, and there were no, like, they didn't have any percussion instruments. Like, even a drummer had a guitar in his hand, right? And then the background was just like this big kind of blazing bonfire, and it was just really, really cool. Riverport, I'm going to call it Riverport. Most of you are probably going to call it Hollywood Amphitheater or whatever.
It's Riverport.
Yeah, it's Riverport.
Never not going to be Riverport.
That's right. Live and die, Riverport. But no, I mean, it was great. We sat, like, our seats were really good also. Like, we didn't sit, we were under the pavilion, but we didn't sit on the floor seats. Like, we actually sat, and I'm not going to tell you exactly where we sat because I don't want to give away our seat, like, location, because we're probably going to sit in these seats again, but we were, like, right on the edge. Nobody was in front of us or anything like that. It was really, I mean, just great seats, great views. Darius Rucker, the man can sing. I mean, he was singing just as well as he did back in the 90s. And it's funny because if you read the drummers, his name is Jen Sonnenfeld, right? If you read his autobiography or listen to it or whatever, and then you go see the show, it gives it a whole new depth of what these guys do and just kind of what they've been through since they started and how they got started and everything. But it was really cool, really great show.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I'm gonna let Miss Rebecca tell you the story of how I proposed. I don't want to blurt it out on the air or whatever, because it was. I thought it was kind of cool though, but
I can't wait to hear that story.
Yeah, I'll let her tell you. I thought it was cool, and when she said it was very heartfelt, she appreciated it. She probably at least liked it a little bit because she said yes, right? So which that made me feel good. But all right, awesome. So guys, reminder, we are coming to you live every Monday night, 7:15, and we are here in Studio B. Studio B is actually I would say you could probably a small production studio.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely a nice live studio that you could have. Located right here in Granite City. A lot of people say Granite City doesn't have a lot going on for it. We actually have a whole crap load of stuff going on for it. And Studio B is just one of those things that it gives us an outlet to just come together on a Monday night and just kind of, talk about our life and different topics that, we find interesting. We have another podcast that airs from here live on Thursday nights called the Mostly Hockey Podcast. Those guys are really great to watch and check also. If you have something that you would like to do, it could be live, pre-recorded, or however you would like to do it. You can become part of the GCRX podcast network. Just, shoot us a message or something like that. And we can get you taken care of. But speaking of topics for the night, something's been going on for the last, I would say, even before COVID restrictions were released. I think it started with COVID. Would you agree with this, Kim? Would you say it kind of started with COVID and then just kind of launched into something new?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're talking about basically is employees, people to work for you, employee work ethic, what's fair, what's not fair, things like that. And, this isn't a show specifically dedicated to, some of the businesses here downtown, but I mean, it's really about just anywhere you go. I mean, we've got to a point where it is so difficult to get employees that, like, places like Taco Bell are paying daily. If you'll show up to work today, we'll pay you today. I mean, it even says it on some of their advertising and now hiring, basically, please, for the love of God, please come work for us so we can stay in business. And I don't think that hits anywhere harder than the small businesses or whatever, but even some of the corporate businesses and franchises. And let's be clear, franchises are also small businesses because they're independently owned. Just because they have a big name behind them doesn't necessarily mean that it's any easier for them than a small brick and mortar that's, on Nedrin House here or something like that. But what we want to talk about is basically, why is it so hard right now to get good quality employees and to get people to work for a fair wage? And I guess that's another question that you have to ask yourself. What's a fair wage? Is it $15 to flip a burger at McDonald's? People say that's not a livable wage. Well, those jobs aren't meant to be livable jobs. Those are jobs are meant to be starter jobs or launchpad jobs and things like that. So we're going to discuss a little bit, but as you guys know, a lot of this show relies on feedback from you guys as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, you guys can always comment here and we can talk about your comments, but we would like to engage also. So what I'm going to do is, Engineer Bill, I think you're a little ahead of me already here, but we're going to drop a link down here that's going to allow you guys to actually come onto the show virtually. So you can, just do audio, you can do video or whatever. I think this is a really frustrating topic for a lot of people. Mainly because it's frustrating for store owners because you can't make money unless you got people working. And it's frustrating for patrons because if you want to go to some of your favorite places, but the damn door's locked because you can't get employees in there, let's talk a little bit about how frustrating the problem is. And then let's talk about some ideas about how do we feasibly resolve it. And is this something that we actually can resolve at this point as to where we're at? So with that, I'm just going to kind of open it up and Kim, I'm really interested to get your thoughts, and Bill, I'd like to get your thoughts also. And then, we'll just kind of discuss back and forth.
I think it was a perfect storm of, and there's no need to even go who is to blame. These are just the facts. COVID came, we were told to stay home.
Yeah.
Jobs were proven that they weren't that important. It wasn't necessary. The government's going to throw out some stimuluses. People relied on that. They adjusted the way that they lived. We didn't go to grocery stores. You had things delivered. You went and got in a line. Everything about your normal life changed. And then on the back burner was this minimum wage that was edging up. And maybe to some, they think that is a fair wage. It's setting us up the mom and pops are going to go away. Their products, let's just talk about the restaurant industry, even the corporates, as you say. Let's take White Castle, for instance. Yeah. Have you been to White Castle lately?
No.
White Castle is so expensive now. Mm-hmm. That used to be the place. The burgers have gotten smaller. The quality is not the same.
The service isn't there either because you can literally sit in the drive-thru almost 20 minutes.
Right, and it's almost completely automated. Yeah. So here you've got the COVID, you got the stimulus that they passed out that showed people what they could do. They even changed the income taxes during those COVID years. We even changed our education. We proved that school was not that important. You don't need to be in a classroom to learn. Yes, you do. I'm not going to change my mind on that. Mm-hmm. I also think that we created this this self-entitlement group. For example, and I'll just say it, I don't care. When I was looking for a job as a young person, and they gave me an application to fill out, nowhere on that freaking paper was there my availability. Mm-hmm. And now, when you go to look for jobs, you want to tell your prospective employer when you are available to work.
So
what?
So I actually do remember seeing that. Like I do remember seeing that on some of the smaller applications, especially at the Arches. Like when I applied at the Arches or anything like that, there was like, when are you available to work? Because employers would use that. Okay, well, this person's not available when I need.
But this is on a whole nother level now. A whole nother level.
It is. But I think I can defend like that. I think I can defend the availability thing because from a form, I used to be a manager at a couple different places. If an employee is not available when you need them to be there, there's no sense in calling them for an interview and wasting their time. So I see your point.
Yeah, you want a job? But I'll let you know what the availability is.
I could kind of agree with you if you're looking at it from like an employer perspective, but just based off what we kind of said starting this conversation with the very touchy subject of $15 an hour, mm-hmm. and saying that, well, it's not meant to be a a wage that gets you through. Well, I mean, if you're telling me that I need to be available whenever you want me to be available, then I can't work at your place for $15 an hour because I have to have 2 jobs to make a living wage to pay for fuel and apartment. And have you priced apartments recently? $15 an hour is a laugh. It's laughable.
You
At
can't survive
16,
on $15
17
an
years
hour.
old, do you need those bills?
No, but I mean, what 18-year-old is coming out of high school, jumping right into a job that makes $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year?
Things have changed.
They're not. And we're encouraging these kids to go in and start doing these trades type things.
And I am for that.
And
Absolutely.
I am too, because I think in a lot of situations, colleges push down their throat for no reason. You don't need to go get a degree. Whatever you're looking at or they're pushing you into is probably saturated anyway. But there's a lot of good trades that need people, welders, plumbing, so on and so forth. But you got to get a job.
But here's the question. I mean, so fast food jobs run rampant. There are so many McDonald's out there. There's so many Taco Bells and Burger Kings and things like that. Like, can you get a job at one of those places? Absolutely, you can. Some fast food place is going to hire you. They're going to say, okay, yep, if you're going to agree to come work for me for, let's just say it's $15 an hour now. If you're going to agree to come work for me for $15 an hour, I'm going to take you, especially in today's job market, because it is no longer an employer's market. It is now an employee's market. The value for human resources, and that's what we all are. We're all worker bees for the most part.
Oh yeah, you could go get a McDonald's job tomorrow.
Yeah,
they make you a manager right off the bat. Like, well, look at this guy.
They will. Like, there are some jobs that if you've got some previous experience, and even some if you don't, they're going to make you a shift lead,
or can actually make change for $1.
Right, without looking at the cash register.
Yeah, well, that's a technology that's like you and I definitely, Kim, you and I definitely came up in that era where, look, you need to be able to tell a guy what his change is, because sometimes we used manual registers. I mean, you have to be able to tell that. The thing of it is now, which some could argue the education aspect of it, now you don't need to, because for the most part now, when you walk into a restaurant, there are a lot of them that have that big glaring kiosk that's right there. And for the most part, good luck finding someone at the register, because they want you to use the kiosk.
Right.
You use the kiosk, you pay with your card, and which the cash thing that's been going around, I see its point. I agree with that, about using cash, but more and more businesses are getting away from taking cash and they're taking cards. But that's another show, I'm sure. But it's getting to the point now where if a person who comes out of high school, they're going into college, okay, maybe they don't really need to think a whole lot while on the job. Maybe what they need is something that, hey, I'm going to come to work, I'm going to put burgers in a bag, I'm going to hand to somebody else, I'm going to get $15 an hour. Okay, that can help offset or whatever. My thought and my feeling is jobs like these, the quick, non-thinking drone jobs, they're not meant to survive on. Now we have people that do. We have people that they have to. We have the single moms or even the single dads that are out there that they have to get 2 part-time jobs. I've worked 2 jobs before.
Same.
Hell, technically now I probably work 2 or 3 jobs because I have a lot of stuff that I do. But the thing of it is, a lot of this work is automated, kiosk driven, and things like that. Now I'm going to be honest with you, they still manage to get it wrong. I took some food back to the Arches 3 separate times in the same trip, because they couldn't read a ticket, but that's another story. But getting someone to work or whatever, I mean, it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be that hard to fill positions or whatever. And I agree with you. I think that the government made a huge mistake in subsidizing everybody, when it came to the COVID. I mean, they were paying people that didn't need it. Like, there were people that were making a lot of money and like, I don't need $1,200 a week. Give it to somebody else or whatever. And the other challenge is they extended that beyond the point that it needed to. And the folks, if you're watching and listening to me drone on, I would love to hear you, combat my statement here or whatever, but the government has made it too easy for people not to work.
Sure they have.
And people have gotten to a point of they're happy with mediocrity. If I can pay my rent, I can buy macaroni and cheese and maybe some hamburger helper and get my car payment and keep my bills paid. I'm okay with that.
I think I think the whole situation is being exacerbated by the fact that, well, yes, it did start during COVID, but I think that the fact that you just can't get ahead right now, unless you're just stupid, filthy rich, is just draining. Like, listen, it used to be where you start out at one of those starter jobs and you aspire to improve, and you do,
right,
and you make it, and you start getting to that comfort zone where you can buy a house, you can have kids, you can have a couple toys, like I'm gonna buy a boat and we're gonna do family vacations and stuff.
Yeah, there was an incentive.
And like, just for example, I am making more now than my father made at his high-end steel mill job back when I was young, and we still struggle. Like, and we're not frivolously spending money. It just, everything's expensive.
It is. Inflation
is ridiculous.
Inflation has just gone off the rails.
It has. So I don't know. I think you just get to a point where, number one, you've got the problem with, like what you said the government did, which is the stimulus checks. You have a problem with the welfare mentality, where people get on welfare, then want to get off welfare. Why would I do anything to have to get back into the rat race and do this or that when I can live at home for free?
And we talked about this a little bit before the show. It's like that downshift, or you can call it downshift or upshift, or whatever you want to call it. The welfare system, and I don't know. I mean, growing up, we were on government assistance, when we were growing up. And I know that at one point there was, once you hit a certain dollar amount, we're cutting you off. There wasn't a sliding scale or a graduating scale. It was like, once you hit like $5 over that poverty line, you're done.
Yep.
We're not going to help you anymore. So now you've got to take care of childcare on your own. There's just so many other bills that you have to pay that it makes it difficult to do that. So to your point, why would you go to work? Like, why would you better yourself?
With the amount of money that I make right now, let's say that I have a very unique skill that's only suited to my job, and it's impossible for me to go apply that somewhere else. And in today's economy and people getting all these jobs, it may be hard for me to find another job if I got let go or laid off or whatever. What would be the point of me going and working at McDonald's? That's not even going to make a dent. The minuscule salary that I'd be pulling in from a fast food job, or being a waiter at a restaurant, or some other mundane, low-skilled job, wouldn't even be worth my time. And I know that's hard to perceive, but when you make the kind of money that I make, and I'm not trying to like boast or anything, but when you're at that income level, to go down to, $20,000 a year, that's not even going to pay half of my bills.
But that goes back to, those jobs were never meant to support a household. That was your second job. That was your part-time job. That was a younger person's job or a retired person's job. And who made the money in fast food was your managers and your general manager and your district manager. And now there is such poor customer service in 90% of everywhere that they're all making about the same amount of money.
Yeah, the customer service is terrible. The attitude is terrible. It's one of the things that I noticed in fast food that in the recent years that's blown my mind is when I started in fast food back in the day, and I was a shift leader and then a store manager, was that we were expected to have a speed of service of 2 minutes and 30 seconds through the drive-through.
Right.
From the time they ordered, pulled up to the actual speaker, like their tires got over the sensor. Whether they sat there for a minute and had to look at the menu, that's still on our timer. They wanted us out of there in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Did that always happen? No, it didn't, because things get busy, but it averages out. It's for the day, right? Now, pulling people forward into waiting spots for 10 minutes is just the norm. If we pulled people,
why do you think that is? Is it because of DoorDash and apps?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think the complexity of the menu has gone off the scale in some places, because if you look at the food, it doesn't take any longer to cook a McDonald's hamburger than it did in 1995. It's the same grill technology. They use the plaid thing that goes down and cooks it. And I don't remember the cook time on that. It didn't work at McDonald's. It worked at Burger King. But like Burger King, same thing. It's the broiler. It goes through. It takes a couple minutes for a roll patty.
Yeah, that technology's
fries are a few minutes. Like it's all very timed out. So there's no more there. But they've cut labor back. In the case of McDonald's, I don't think they've cut labor back because there's always like 12 people back there working, which just blows my mind too, because we did it with like
You'd
4.
think you could get like an order of fries within 4 minutes.
Just the professionalism.
It's crazy.
Gone.
And I think some of it also is, and I want to be fair to the people who are working. Okay. Some of that I think could just be burnout, because you have people out there that want to work, and the thing of it is, if you have 3 people running a 6-man shift, those 3 people are working their asses off because they have to, because they seriously want their job, they want to be there and things like that, but they're literally doing the work of 2 people and they're exasperated, they're exhausted, because they may be picking up 10 shifts a week, just to make sure that everything is done. Because the people who want to be there and the people who want to work know that if the doors close, they may be able to go to work somewhere else, but that's a big hassle to switch jobs. It's a huge hassle. So I want to give props to the people who are showing up and who are working, and they're probably exhausted. Now, does that mean that you should, treat a customer rudely? Of course not. Does it mean that it should take you 20 minutes to get, something to eat or whatever? Of course not. But I think that on some level, that's what's happening with the actual workforce that is working.
So what were your thoughts? You were going to say what your thoughts were on why they're pulling people forward and it takes so much longer now. Was it the people are exhausted type thing?
I think that's some of it.
So
and
that's not the case with Chick-fil-A.
It's
not the case with Chick-fil-A.
No, it's not. Chick-fil-A, though, apparently, from what I understand, is actually a pretty good company to work for. They pay their people well. They train their people well. And I can tell you 100%, I've been at Chick-fil-A a lot of times. I have never, ever had a bad experience at Chick-fil-A.
So, that goes back to something that I've said before, like when we were talking about the homeless issue and everything. Like, you have a shining beacon on the hill. As any other food establishment, you have a shining beacon on the hill that is Chick-fil-A. They have more order volume than any McDonald's or Burger King or Jack in the Box or Arby's in this area every day. They handle it. And they handle it with professional customer service, with a smile, and they've got all the employees in the world. So why is it that Chick-fil-A can achieve that, yet McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Burger King, all the rest of them can't?
That's a really good point. And I think if we're going to use Chick-fil-A as the litmus test, for, all these other establishments or whatever, I think Chick-fil-A gets a bad rap on some levels because of the political values that some people have. And there's some people like, I'm not going to go work for those guys. Those guys are bigots. No, they're not. They just have a system of values that other people don't.
They're privately owned, and they're if they want to portray their business that way, then more power to them.
Right.
If you're a publicly owned company, don't give me your values and your political views, because you're just there to run a company. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of it also has to do with the mentality of someone that's going to go to work. Well, if I'm going to go to work for $15 an hour and that's all, and I don't know what, Chick-fil-A pays, but if I'm going to go to work for $15 an hour, and what's minimum wage now, because that's the word that sticks in people's head, is they're going to pay me the minimum amount it takes to get me to work. I'm going to give them the minimum amount of effort that I think I could possibly give them. And I think that plays a little bit into it also. Companies don't get off 100%, they don't get off this, blame wagon 100%, because some companies suck to work for. Now I'm not, I could give you some names, but I'm not going to, because I really don't want us to get sued, but,
it's hard to get money out, blood out of a rock.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's very true. But I really do think that there's some blame and accountability to go with the companies to work for, and those that don't. Like, I think, is it Forbes that also puts out like the top 200 companies to work for, or something like that, in the States. And it's like Wally World. Okay, you know when you go to work for that company, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, it's no secret.
It's no secret. Right. Or you absolutely know what you're walking when you put your application in. You know what you're applying for, and people bitch and complain all the time about working for them. Go find another job or get a skill for the job that you want to do. I mean, there's so much information and knowledge that's out there right now. A lot of companies aren't even looking at degrees. They could give two craps if you have a degree or not. What do you know how to do?
Right.
Can you prove to me that you can do this? Awesome.
Wait, you're Microsoft certified? Cool. You're now the IT director.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
I don't really care.
Right. You know, so I guess what it boils down to is that there's some responsibility on both people. If you want to be the company to work, like when I worked for, I want to say it was Mercantile Bank. They're not around anymore. But their goal and their mission was to be the preferred company for people to come work for. I used to work for a company called National Dentex. They wanted to be the premier employer in their field. Like they were driven to have people come in and they would say, what don't you like about your job? What can we do to bring more people here? We're going to fix it. We're going to do that. I feel that companies that do that do draw the better employees because they care about their own business and they care about how happy their employees are, because again, moving jobs sucks. No one likes to do it, but they will. You know,
and it's a waste of money for the company, for the employee to move jobs too, because
it's like 6 months to recover your cost on training.
You got to retrain them. We had a big problem with that where we work. It costs with training and tooling, it costs almost $60,000 by the time, because it's 8 weeks of training and flying them all over the place and then tooling them out and all that other stuff. And it's rather expensive. So when they quit, well, you got to start back over again.
Yeah. Your return on investment on an employee is it's kind of crazy if you think about it.
But I think that maybe you've actually kind of opened a door to what might be the root issue with what's going on here. Is, again, you've got multi-billion-dollar companies that have kind of just let their business go on autopilot, other than releasing a few new McCafe items or, recipes or whatever, or get this new burger that we just picked a few other ingredients we already had and made a new concoction. It's not really new. It's just a different mixture. They're just kind of on autopilot. And with having it as a franchise makes it even worse, because you don't really have control. Franchises are like contractors.
Right. They just have to have certain.
Right. Yeah. They have to follow that branding, and they can't, offer fried chicken if that's not part of your business model. But like, you can get away with a lot as a franchisee, and no amount of complaints about how crappy your service is at an individual location is going to cause corporate to come down and slap your hand.
Right.
It's just not. It doesn't. And it almost always gets handled.
Get off brand, though, they come on to you.
Of course. But that's not the problem. McDonald's is branded flashy. McDonald's, everything is McDonald's. It's not a problem. They don't serve fried chicken there, on the bone, because it's not McDonald's thing.
Right.
But they have crappy service, and it's a known thing.
Some of them have crappy service. That's
a high amount of them have crappy service. Like, listen, more have crappy service than good service. Let's just be honest. There's not a lot. But
why do we keep going back?
Because it's easy, and up until recently is cheap.
Yeah, but I can tell you a story about that for sure. But not only do we keep going back, you're right, Bill. Easy, convenience, but you also know what you're going to get.
Yes.
If you buy a McDonald's hamburger right across the street from where we're at here, at Studio B, if you buy a McDonald's hamburger over there, and you buy a McDonald's hamburger in Tulsa, Oklahoma,
the same.
You're going to get the exact same hamburger.
Barring quality issues, but I mean, there's not a lot of, I got raw food anymore, because I mean, you literally put the burger patties down on the grill, you close the thing, and you hit a timer, and it doesn't come back up until they've been cooked. I mean, a lot of that in the fast food world has been turned into a process, which also makes it mind-blowingly annoying that they're still able to screw things up. Like, literally all you have to do is take the burger out of the tray, little like amber colored pull-out tray, and put it onto the bun and add the things that are supposed to be on that. And the build chart is right in front of you.
It's all portioned too. Like, I used to work at the Arches, and there's like, even when you squeeze the mustard on,
it's portioned.
Yeah, I mean, when you squeeze the trigger, and now that technology may have changed, I don't know, but you'd squeeze a trigger, it would literally drop like 5 large drops of ketchup and 4, maybe 3 large drops of
specifically
mustard.
patterned.
Yes, on the
on the
burger
patty.
for coverage. I
Coverage.
mean, when those guys,
In the test kitchens.
yeah, well, the test. I mean, there's an actual like university for them, right?
Mhm.
But when those guys started their business back in the 50s, those brothers, I got to tell you, they knew what they were doing, and they had a hell of a product. And I don't care what you say, you can talk all
Mhm.
about Ray Kroc all you want. He was just a guy that took it and ran with it and screwed those 2 guys over, right? But and if you don't believe me, watch The Founder. I
It's
believe it's
actually
pretty
really good,
accurate.
Yeah, I've seen it.
But you know, the process has become automated, even if you're doing some manual stuff. You know, I mean, it's not just with the arches; it's everywhere you go. You know, which is why it's. I really do think that the mindset of some of the employees is wrong because you have that word minimum in there.
Mhm.
You hear minimum. These jokers aren't going to pay me anything but the minimum that they have to pay me. So I'm going to give them the minimum that I have to do in order to show up every day and get my paycheck every week or every day or, you know, whatever the case may be.
I truly believe that if, and it would never happen, but if a Chick-fil-A was to build right here in Granite City,
Mm-hmm.
that it would be staffed with plenty of people
Sure.
and they would have a great attitude and it would be efficiently ran and it would blow every other fast food establishment in this town out of the water.
So let's talk a little bit about that, about
Guaranteed.
attitude. I agree with you. I agree with you. Let's talk about attitude, though. Like, let's talk about can small businesses, and we're not just talking about restaurants here, right? Because there are other small businesses in the area, both here in Granite, Edwardsville, Collinsville. You know, Omega Music Store will take these guys over here. Like, is there a lot of pruning that goes on in these areas? Like, can small businesses afford to prune employees that are not matched well to that position?
I think that you don't have a choice. I think that in the case of McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Burger King, insert mediocre fast food place here,
Yeah.
they just don't have time, nor do they care.
Can they afford to care?
I think so. Yes, I think they can. That's a very lucrative business, and you wouldn't see, like, for instance, the guy who owns the McDonald's in this area having so many McDonald's if it wasn't worth it, you know. And like, he's got quite a bit of money, but you put your business into the hands of people that aren't bought into your vision, and are okay with the guy that has kind of a little bit of an attitude. And most people don't complain. I mean, there are the ones that do complain, and there are the Karens, but most people have a crappy experience at McDonald's, and they're just like, nah, well, I mean, it's par for the course. It's McDonald's. What do you expect?
Yeah.
It's become that way. I think that you have to ingrain it into your management team that, listen, we're going to put forth this effort, and if somebody's not working out here, or during the interview process, we're going to profile this person. I don't want to use profile as a hard word.
Right.
People don't like that.
Well,
these days,
I mean, it happens,
but
because
we're
you
gonna-
have to determine if they're going to be a fit for your company.
We're going to
Right.
profile their attitude and their ambition and all that stuff. Like, listen, I get it. It's a fast food job, but at the end of the day, this is my business. It's my livelihood. And, you know, yes, it's the McDonald's Corporation, but this store, its equipment, its building, everything belongs to me. I'm paying, like, this is my mini business that I've started here, and I'm just paying them for the branding, you know? So this is my business, and I need you to treat my customers the way that I expect you to treat those customers. And if your profile does not fit that, then you can't work here. But they don't do that. And they get in such a rush to bring people in, and oh my gosh, it can't be understaffed and it would be overwhelming and people would be pissed off. Well, people are pissed off because the guy at the drive-thru is doing everything short of cussing them out. You know, like, so you're not winning in either direction. Either I waited 5 minutes for my food, or I got snubbed at the drive-thru window and my order was wrong in the first place. Like, which one is worse? I'd rather wait 5 minutes for my food. And if I had a pleasant person at the drive-thru window that gave me a smile and was enjoyable, then maybe that 5 minutes wasn't so bad. But I still waited 5 minutes for my food. It was wrong, and the guy was a jerk.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm asking, you make a very valid point. You know, I guess what I'm asking though is, when you say, can you afford to weed out the bad apples or the people who don't fit? Because I do think that there are a lot of times that someone's in a position that it's just not for them.
Right.
You know, so from a staffing point of view, you've got a 6-man shift. Okay, you're fortunate enough to have 6 people, and I say man in the very most basic of pronouns.
I
Okay,
got it.
Mm-hmm.
so you have a 6-man shift. You have 6 people on board, and one of them just sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Like one guy's got a bad attitude, but if you don't have 6 men or 6 people on the shift, the other 5 are going to suffer
Mm-hmm.
because they've got to pick up the slack. Or let's say you got 2 people, which is probably more common. You got 2 people on this shift, so now you have 4 people who have to pick up the slack of 2 others while someone takes 20 smoke breaks, or they hang out in the bathroom for 30 minutes, or they just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Can that business really afford to look at them in the eye and say, look, this job isn't for you, so
Oh yeah,
I gotta let
absolutely.
you go? What I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't, you're going to ruin your business.
I think there is outside factors also that you wouldn't expect to fit into this picture. The Safety Act.
Mm-hmm.
This fits this. There's a whole sector of people out there that mom stops giving the money to, grandma stops giving the money to. They would have went to work,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just so much easier. And legalizing weed was not the best thing that we did.
No.
I'm not against weed by any means whatsoever. I personally don't indulge, but I'm not against it. But I don't think it was the best thing for us to legalize it. So when you add in the legalization of that, you have the Safety Act where the police can't do anything. Drugs are gateway drugs. I know I'm going to get feedback on that, but hear me out. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's joint, or when you add those substances with a mindset, it escalates. And now you've got somebody that dabbles in drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You got a surly attitude because COVID started the whole damn thing.
I think surly is a way underused word, by the way.
It is.
Exactly, right? And I could just steal some shit. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're not even taking me to jail anymore. There is so many factors that are contributing to the downfall. This isn't just the downfall of fast food. This is the downfall of America.
So how would you tie that in though into the quality or the work ethics that we're having or that we're facing now? I mean, I get the
where are the
attitude,
people
mentality.
at? Where everybody is needing employees.
I would say ask Chick-fil-A. Because
but
they're
there's very
them.
few Chick-fil-A's. And let's just say our area.
I know, but everywhere they go, they find the cream of the crop.
Absolutely,
and they're
do.
paying them nearly the same as
and we can say the same thing about Hobby Lobby.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't even use barcodes there.
I had an excellent experience at Culver's yesterday. There wasn't one unpleasant person working.
Yeah.
And there was at least 12 of them back there working.
Absolutely.
But for the majority of the businesses in America, help wanted signs are more prevalent than not.
Yeah. Yep. I think that comes down though to we talked about Culver's, we talked about Chick-fil-A being positive work experiences. That comes down to the reputation of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it begs the question: who is more responsible? Are the companies more responsible for the way they treat their employees? Are the employees more responsible for their attitude? I personally think it's a shared responsibility, but between the two of them,
I think it's a shared responsibility.
Yes, and let's not forget about the fact that we disrupt the pay system and things like that. You know, when you pay daily, you get daily workers.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different than the
Absolutely.
guy. When I was growing up, my uncles used to work out in the horseradish fields.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they work out there? You know, they got paid weekly. They got paid, okay, to be out there. You know, and it was hard ass work.
What kind of caliber people want paid daily?
That's the question right there. Exactly. It's the guy or the girl. Again, I want to be fair. It's the guy or the girl that wants to show up to work on Wednesday and Thursday, party on Friday and Saturday, recover on Sunday, and maybe they want to come to work on Monday and Tuesday again. That's not the kind of work ethic that I think is good. It's not the kind of work ethic to promote. And again, we have businesses, the fast food companies are notorious for this now, that are promoting that type of work ethic. And I do. So Miss Rebecca's chimed in a couple times here, and I want to bring up her point here about work ethic. You know, I'm going to put it up on the screen, and she's she's right. We've lost a generation of hard-driven workers, people that want to work, and that because it has not been passed down necessarily from one generation to the next, or
Right.
we have a generation in there that's like, they won't do much. So now we got people like, well, am I going to follow mom and dad's footsteps, or just kind of do my own thing?
Again, the drug addiction plays a part of this. There's just too many freely walking, living, semi-functional drug addicts that is pulling our country down.
Yeah, but what percentage of that demographic do you feel fits into and I'm asking because I really don't know, but like, what percentage of that demographic do you feel fits into the current employment? And again, we're not just talking about fast food.
No.
What percentage of those people fall into the category that we're talking about, that we just can't get decent workers?
I can't give a number because that would just be guessing, but there is enough that I notice it. And I notice it in our town. I notice it across the country. I travel as much as I possibly can. And it's the same people. These are not the drugs of 1960. These are not the drugs of 1990.
Right.
They're just not. Bath salts was the worst thing that ever came to America. It turned people into drug addictions that you didn't come back from.
That and the pain huffers, man.
Exactly. Okay, you know what? Bring them back. Bring them back.
So you're looking for a lesser
Because
drug
what
to
we
bring them
got
back.
going right now, listen, ain't nobody more aggravated that I have to show an ID to buy a can of spray paint.
Yeah.
Or
I get it, yeah.
Right now you can hear my voice. I've got a little something going on, but I know that to get the good Sudafed, I've got to wait at the freaking pharmacy.
Yeah.
No, miss me on that. I'm done with the homeless. I'm done with the drug addiction. I am mostly done with the unwanted. And they are the society that we're never going to recover from. And if we don't acknowledge it, it's not ever going to get any better. They're multiplying.
Well, acknowledging it doesn't get you reelected.
Right. And so
How
I
do
think
exactly.
to your
How are you going to figure that one out, though?
To your multiplying
It's
statement.
not going to be city government doing it.
Who's it going to be?
Individual interest groups that care about their city not dying.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Where do we
Government's not
think
gonna fix it.
fentanyl comes from? I mean, let's even do
Outside the country.
a bigger picture. Fentanyl seems to be the drug that
Of choice. Yep.
across America.
A little goes a long way.
Which blows my mind because that shit kills you with just like, a grain of it.
A little goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's it coming from?
Outside the country.
China. Mexico.
Mhm.
And it's not even fentanyl that's coming in. It's what makes it. It's the chemicals that are making it. I just can't believe that we can't stop that.
No, we just want that open border policy.
Then,
Our duly elected president thinks that Bidenomics works.
Well, and then here's the thing about drugs. Man, this is going to
They're
start
the
a
root of
hornet's
it.
nest, I'm sure. But if you look at, like, there's ample evidence and proof that shows that the government was involved in the degradation of the African American community back in the 60s. There was it was an actual operation, and we can talk about this with Nick on the show sometime because it's one of those conspiracy theories. There's proof that shows that the United States government was involved in the degradation of that community by introducing drugs into that community. Now, whether or not they chose to take those drugs or not, that was on those particular people, not that particular race, but just that community. Okay, white, black, whatever. If you were in that poor, depressed communities, that's where all that was influxed. It included African Americans, Mexicans, some Caucasians. That was just kind of planned there. So I personally think that it's in the United States government's best interest to keep people down, to keep people hooked on things, because then you have more programs that get funded, and all that money comes from taxpayers, and all that money is sucked out of our pockets and into the government's pockets, and for programs that are feckless,
Right.
So
I wish there was a crystal ball that we could look and see, say 20 years from now, did these zombie walking fentanyl flyers, the sludge of America at the moment, did they survive? Because the cocaine addicts of my era,
Mm-hmm.
those that didn't, and those that did. Then you went through the crack cocaine
Mm-hmm.
and the ice and the crank and all of those things. And you see people, and heroin, my God, I thought that was the end of the world right there. But we all personally know people that were heroin addicts, and who they are today, you would never know they were that then.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, like, they made it. Some of them didn't.
Well, recovery works. I mean, there are a lot of
Someone
programs
made
out
it.
there. Yeah.
If we could just look at the crystal ball and see what this fentanyl looks like in recovery 20 years from now. Are they mentally psychotic now forever? And these are the people I'm talking about that I mentioned earlier before we started the show. They're the ones that cannot control their own bodies.
Yeah.
They look like spider people on our sidewalks. They
Right.
can't control their head, their arms, their legs. What is happening to their brain? In 20 years, are we going to be sitting across? At that time, I'll be looking at 80. It's not going to much matter to me. But are they going to be sitting right next to us and be like, well, I survived that. I'm a normal person. I just don't think we're there. I think we reached it.
I don't know. I stand behind what I said earlier. I think that one of the things that's missing as a tool for our law enforcement personnel is if you are intoxicated by drugs or alcohol in a public place, you go to jail, and not just, oh, we keep you for 24 hours, but there's a significant sentence for that. And those people get taken off the streets and they get forced through rehab, because you're right about the people that nobody care about. Nobody is going to encourage them to get clean.
No.
So they're not going to, because I don't have mom that I reconnect with and she's like, oh my gosh, let me help you. Let me get you to rehab. Let me coach you and hoorah for you along the way. It's not a thing. So there has to be a removal of freedom in that instance, and a place into a program where you are not pumped full of methadone and all that stuff, where you're detoxed.
Can't be a government program.
Right. Yeah. Where you're detoxed and you are forced to go through this, and then you're on probation, where during your probationary period, however long that may be, there's no drugs. There's no alcohol, not even a nightcap cocktail. Like if you get caught,
Zero.
Yeah, if you get caught with anything in your system, you go to prison for 30 years or whatever that looks like, something that's intimidating. Like that's the way that you're going to have to approach those people who don't want to go through this stuff. I mean, and for the folks that are homeless and do want to, then there needs to be programs for them as well. But the folks that just want to walk around like spider people need to go to jail.
So it swings right back around to the Safety Act.
Yeah.
They can't even take you to jail now.
Yep.
Unless it's a heinous crime.
Mm-hmm. You gotta kill somebody.
What the hell are we doing with ourselves?
Oh, we're making it totally fine for your spider people to walk around on the sidewalks and alienate everybody out of the town.
That's not fair.
Nope.
To the people that are normally living life, that are investing their hard-earned dollars. It's just not fair to have to live along with that.
Agreed.
So no, they're not going to take him to jail.
Mm-mm.
You know.
But here's the thing, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because while I don't disagree with you, what you're going to hear back from other people is it's not fair to lock someone like that that's mentally disabled or has mental issues or whatever because of the poor decisions that they've made. Because let's be honest, you know, and again, this isn't a conservative or liberal statement, because again, I'm going to profess to be a libertarian on pretty much most social issues and things like that. But you're going to have those that are going to say, well, this person, you know, they're mentally ill, they've had a terrible childhood, things like that, so they get hooked on drugs. So we have to do everything that we possibly can to make sure
that's cool
that they get clean. You can't take away their freedom for so long because they made poor mistakes. And I think that the key word that's missing there is that they made mistakes. you know, and the personal accountability, you know, comes from that. And Bill, I agree with you that there needs to be an exclusion from society when you get to a certain point that you are causing more damage to society, even more than you're doing to yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know, at some points, even for your own benefit, it's better for you to be locked up somewhere because, you know, relapse rates and things like that are I don't know exactly what they're. I know it happens a lot, and the ability for you to stay clean is reduced significantly when you hang around those people that you used to hang around with.
Absolutely.
You know, you have to exclude yourself from society. So maybe that looks like, you know, not only if you're, because I know felons aren't supposed to hang around other felons, right? Or something like that. You know, so maybe another stipulation to that should be that, look, we can help take care of you or whatever. You got to get rid of these other people that are poor influences. Yes, you get to make the decisions that you get to make. But yeah, we're going to invest this money in you and rehabilitating you and, you know, things like that. But you got to make better decisions. And if you don't, then you need to be held accountable for that. On the whole fentanyl thing earlier, you know, and I mentioned this before the show. Sometimes I think we ought to broadcast the pre-show as opposed to actual show.
Yeah,
You know?
actually,
But
I'm for that.
you know, when it comes to like the fentanyl and stuff, like I think anything that's heavy that causes, you know, societal damage, if you're caught with it, your ass should be locked away for good.
You may have just coined
Period.
something.
You know, I mean,
Societal damage.
yeah, you know,
Well,
I mean, if what you've got going on is causing that, then yeah, we're gonna lock your ass
Well,
away
here's the thing,
know?
like it
permanently.
it doesn't make logical sense. If you catch me out and I'm just stoned, and you take me in and it's marijuana. Oh, okay. It's marijuana. That's legal. If you catch me out and I've stumbled out of a bar and I'm just absolutely stupid drunk, I'm not driving. Okay. You don't need to be publicly intoxicated. You're going to get a fine for that. Teach you a lesson. We're going to take you home. Okay. But if I'm walking around like a spider human, high off of my gourd on fentanyl,
yeah,
that's not legal. You acquired that you purchased that illegally from somewhere. It's in your system. You don't even have it on you. Like, we didn't find a little baggie or anything like, okay, not anything that we can really do. But yes, there is, because you purchased that. It got in your system somehow. You didn't just like brush up against a wall and now you're high on fentanyl. That's not a thing. Like, you got it from somewhere. You obviously are taking this. So you're going to jail. And to your devil's advocate point, the person that you were saying, oh, you can't take their freedom. Yeah. Yes, you can, because people make mistakes all the time and they go to jail for them.
I mean, I'm talking more long-term personal freedom. If you lock somebody up, like it used to be common process that if mom was deemed clinically insane, you lock her up for a couple of years, put her in an insane asylum or something like that. You know, the problem with what you just mentioned is our laws are not effective against assumptions. Do we assume that this person is taking fentanyl because of the way that they're behaving or whatever?
No, you do a test.
Is there? Right, but still, even if you do a test, it's like the drug and alcohol thing. And personally, I think if you're busted under a DUI, a fine nowhere near enough. But you know, but the problem is we assume, and we can know there's always that small margin of error. You know, okay, we think they're on fentanyl, they're showing all the symptoms on fentanyl. It may turn out that they've had a bad reaction to their medication. That's the problem with the assumption, because our laws are not working under assumption.
But see, we have all the technology. You take them to the police station, you do a blood test. If it shows positive for narcotics,
violation of their personal rights.
Doesn't matter. It's got to not be a violation of their personal rights. It's not a violation of their personal rights when you make them take a breathalyzer.
So, well, you have the right to refuse it. You can refuse,
and then you're asking refuse, and then go down to the police station and be arrested.
You can, but when you
automatically lose your license for 6 months for refusing.
Do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, see, here's the thing. I get it. I understand my freedom. But the problem is being so open, being the cool parents that the kid's house you always want to hang out with, because the parents are like, I don't care what you do as long as you're not in my house. Being those cool parents makes everybody turn into a jackass. and make society completely fall apart. So listen, if you gave the police the power to arrest intoxicated people, and now mind you, there's a whole other argument that's going to come up with like, oh, police will abuse the power. Police abuse power on other things too. Right. You just got to police the police just like we have been. You know, bad cops are bad cops, and they're going to find their way to be bad cops. So
that's right.
It is what it is.
The majority is not.
Exactly. But if you give them the power to do this, then that's a even bigger incentive not to take the drugs.
Yeah, we can have the drug. I'd love to have a show, and I'd love to have a substance abuse person on the show, because I think that they could actually give us some numbers. And while I think statistics can be misleading, I think that they could give us some, some definite feedback on that. I want to touch on one other thing before we close up for the night, because we talked about the work ethics and things like that. Kim, where do you feel your work ethic has come from? Like, where do you get your work ethic from?
From the need of wanting better.
But where does that come from? Like, where is that instilled from you? Is that something from your parents? Is it from a previous mentor? Or
no, my parents worked. Yes, they did. My had great parents. My dad was a steel worker. My mom was a nurse. They divorced early. My mom was married to a Granite City policeman. Together, they had 8 children. We all worked. There's some of us that have been housewives and not worked, took care of families. I'm not going to give credit to nobody in my past or in my family for my work ethic, because it's all me. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted my kids to have the things they needed. I wanted to take them on vacations. I wanted nice furniture when I felt like I wanted nice furniture. I wanted to go to the mall. I didn't want to have to steal to get what I wanted. I worked for it. If I wanted a brand new car, and I have driven brand new cars most of my life, it's because I know I got to get up for work tomorrow. Do I want to? No. But tomorrow at 4:41, because I want that extra minute, at 4:41, my alarm's going to go off.
I'm sorry.
And it's going to go off for the rest of my life to the day of my funeral, I guess, because I'm somebody that wants.
Why not steal it, though?
What am I going to do with that? I mean, how am I
all
going
these things you wanted? Why not steal it? Who taught you not to steal it? And who taught you that, I got to go to work for it. I've got to get it. Why not steal it? Other people steal things. It's easy
because I don't want to work hard. I don't want to work hard. Do you know how much energy is taken? Have you seen these drug addicts? All right. Yeah. I don't want.
Well, and then think about just having to sit there and plan to not get caught all the time too.
Yeah.
And where am I going to go with it?
Right. You got to make plans to sell whatever you're stealing away from where you stole it from.
I've got a ring on my finger that most women would love to have. Now, if I stole that, you think I could wear that 365 days a year, and somebody's not going to say, that's my ring?
Right.
So there's freedom in doing the morally ethical thing. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
All right.
Now, do I hope that my children have watched their parents? I've worked their whole lives, but I worked jobs that kept me very close to home, in the home, or one phone call away.
Yeah.
Their dad, who were still married, going on 40 years, he always worked in the bakeries and the dairies, and he always worked midnights, and he chose midnights so that he could be there to cook breakfast for them kids.
Nice.
Get them off to school. He slept all day.
What kind of loser sleeps all day long, man?
My dad, when he worked nights at the mill.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd get up.
And God, you better not be
5 o'clock
loud during the day.
Yeah.
Just in time, we figure out what we're doing for supper. And then he had evening. Those kids who are now 40, going to be 40, 38, 37, and 25. I have not asked them this, but I'm pretty sure if I ask them what they remember the most about their dad and work is that they remember him being home because he worked when they were asleep.
Nice.
And he did that on purpose.
That's awesome. That's awesome that he was that focused, dedicated, and intentional.
Now, granted, he was not like that until I got a hold of him at 41 years old.
You had to whip that old man into shape, didn't you?
Straight up did it. This is how we were going to play.
All right. And Bill, how about you? Where do you feel your work ethic came from?
I would say, obviously my parents and grandparents all worked, and there was a strong work ethic there. But I'm with Kim. I have a desire to make things better. I started off with crappy jobs. I worked jobs where it was a lot of work for a little bit of pay, and the pay would look better today if I were in that job. But it's just to improve.
It'd be 15 an hour, right?
Right. I wasn't making 15 an hour as a shift lead at Burger King back then. That would have been royalty money. But I think it's just the aspiration to do better and provide better for your children, and be able to not have to say no, to be able to go on cool vacations and do stuff and improve yourself. And, as far as your comment to stealing, like I said, yeah, you could steal, you could sell drugs, you could make meth. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities out there. But first off, not only is that unethical for yourself, but it's also affecting other people's lives. I think that it wouldn't necessarily be the fact that I was manufacturing meth itself that really brought me down. It would be the effect that I was having on other people's lives by distributing said meth. And then all of the strain of worrying about not getting caught and trying to buy, there's so much that goes into that, and it's unethical, and it's not godly.
There's no 401.
No,
there's no pension.
No.
There's no Social Security with that.
Yeah.
Now listen, I'm going to maybe get to retire. Or at least I'm going to enjoy my husband's. Yeah, go ahead. I am going to get to enjoy his, right?
Uh-huh.
Because there is none of that being a thief. What are you going to do when you're 75?
Yeah.
Well, and that's where the gig work economy scares the crap out of me, because that's another thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about. But some of the fact that these people don't want to work a 9-to-5 job is the fact that the gig work economy with Uber and DoorDash and all that stuff is really enticing, because I'm on when I say I want to be on.
Yeah.
And I go do my work and I get my little bit of money and I'm off. And if we got, Cardinals tickets tonight, then well, sure, I can be off.
It's a big dent in the working economy.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you get old and you're unable to do said gig work anymore, or in even I was doing work for Fiverr for a while with Photoshop and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And that's still a skill that's needed. But for how long with the approaching technology of AI? How much longer are you going to need somebody to
they've
make
got
you a cool
automated
logo?
cars and things like that. I think Domino's has actually even developed a self-driving pizza delivery.
Yeah, it has.
Oh, yeah.
Where does your work ethic come from?
My work ethic comes from my dad. Now, there are not a lot of things that I can say that on a positive aspect that I got from my dad, but my dad was a worker. You know what I mean? Sometimes he may have had something that was a little, but for the most part, my dad was a worker. And my mom was a worker, and my stepdad, kind of instilled that into me also. But when I look at where my desire to work comes from, it would be my dad, because, and I've had multiple influences.
That's neat
So
too.
everything I have and everything I own, first of all, I attribute to God.
Oh,
period.
Yeah, absolutely.
My position where I'm at right now, I attribute my success to God, and my faith drives some of my work ethic also, because I know it's not okay to mooch off other people. I know that that's not okay.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, I've always been instilled to work for what you want and work to get ahead also, because no one wants to, I won't say no one, because there are some people out there that are okay. They get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, they drive an hour to work, they sit in front of their computer, they enter information into the weenus, Friends reference, and then they're happy to go home later on that night, and they're okay with that. I was always instilled to try and do better. Unfortunately, to my detriment, I am very money minded. Like for me, and I have to get out of this mindset. I know that, but a lot of my thoughts are money centric. Can I get money making this? Can I get money doing this? How can I get, more of what I need to take care of my family? And that was the way it was, with my kids. I wanted to take care of my kids. I've got this beautiful woman I'm about to marry, and I want to be able to take care of her. and she loves her job. She loves what she does, and I don't ever want her to not do what she loves, but I don't ever want her to worry about where the next, food is coming from.
That's where some of my
And-
drive came from too. I
Yeah.
watched my grandpa died the year before I was born,
Yeah,
and my grandma lived until the day that she died off of his pension and Social Security.
yeah, and you can't do that anymore.
Nope.
That's not something you can do anymore. But just kind of get back to what I was saying about Rebecca, is I want her to always love her job, and when she gets up in the morning, I want her to be able to like happily go to work and never have to wake up saying, shit, I've got to do this again. So taking care of my family is really my drive and my motivation, because again, that's kind of what my dad did. It wasn't always in the most orthodox of ways, which, and sometimes where some of my money comes from. It's always legal, but it's just not where a lot of people would think how to earn money or things like that. If I have a skill, I'm going to use it to improve myself. And that's kind of my work ethic. That's where I get it from as far as, my dad goes. Take care of the people you love. That's very important. Take care of your kids. You have to do that also. And take care of yourself. So my work ethic has always been rooted in that. And I feel that that's been rewarded, given the positions that I'm in right now.
And I guess thinking about it here for a second, my work ethic probably unconsciously did come from my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it did, because for whatever reasons, what's popped in my mind is that I am also a very responsible pet owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether I get purebred dogs or rescue dogs, that's my decision. But I know what dog I get, that dog's going to have all of its shots. It's going to go to the vet when it needs to. It's going to get its nails done. I'm going to feed it right. So when I thought about that in my mind while you were talking, I think I'm that type of pet owner because we were raised with pet siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there was times that my mother's pug dogs and her little schnitzel dogs, the wiener dogs, were probably the kids she liked the best.
Treated
The
you better
favorite.
than her own kids.
The
Right?
favorite.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to say, maybe subconsciously, I did see my parents go off to work and take us on vacation and buy us things, and we could have the nice animals and the nice home. So
Yeah.
I take that back when I say I'm not giving credit to anyone.
See,
Yeah.
my experience is interesting. It's a little different than yours because, my dad worked at American Steel during the period of time where they were laying off folks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my mom went to work and dad went to work where he could. And there was a lot of, we didn't have money to have the things that we wanted. And it's not for lack of them trying. It's just, they didn't have it. They were managing a household and kids and all that stuff.
Right.
And they were doing what they had to do. So no, I don't blame them at all. They did what they had to do. In fact, it's awesome that they actually got up and did what they had to do.
Yeah.
But I don't want my kids to have that. So like, there's a lot of instances where, I can remember going to the store and be like, oh, I want that. And the answer was no.
Right.
And for my kids, the answer is most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have that. And I don't know if that's ruining them or not.
It's not.
I don't know, but
It's not.
But I don't want them to have that. I don't want to be like, well, we can't go on vacation because, we owe Discover card or what, or, hey, times are tough, suck it up. We're eating mac and cheese only tonight,
Or beans.
Right.
Beans.
Right. But, yeah, I just, it's the betterment, and,
Yeah.
and like you said, stealing is just, I couldn't pull myself to do that. And I guess that's also like upbringing. Like if I stole something from the grocery store, I would have gotten beaten beyond recognition.
It was ass whipping time. Yeah.
Dude.
And I wasn't kidding when I said that about, stealing the energy and the work you have to put into it.
Mhm.
The drug addicts, I know I'm coming back to that because I've been personally affected by.
You got to constantly worry about where you're going to get it from, right? And having money
and
to
how
get
you're
it.
going to pay for it and
Right.
how fast you're going to do it
Mhm.
and who you're going to do it with. Are you going to go off and hide? If they could just bottle that energy, motivation, and the creativity.
The problem is the high and the dependence on the drug has brought them into this spot that's almost inescapable because
Yeah.
you almost physically can't force yourself to detox. You have to be forced to detox.
So I guess I need to know,
Yeah.
are these fentanyl addicts, are they ever going to be contributing members of society?
If somebody forces them to detox, probably.
But can they be safe? I
I
mean,
think that's
I
a
think so.
question
you know,
right there.
okay,
I don't know that
we've
your
always
girl's gray matter
heard
back. Like,
people say, you know, you took one too many acid trips.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you can cross the line. I mean, just like you can cross the line and die from an overdose from it.
yeah. So
I think that maybe there is a point because I've known people that have smoked way too much weed and they're just permanently there. You know, you can tell like, oh, that guy's a smoker
not
from
right,
way
yeah.
back, you know.
well,
like-
I need it for them to do better. I need you to do better.
You know, good luck.
well, they're just going to tell you honestly. A lot of them are going to be like, "Well, I need you to do better. I need you to do better."
You're
for
right.
me,"
I should have locked the shit up. You're right.
you know.
You're right.
So
Yeah. No, fentanyl's a crisis.
it is,
It is.
and
And it's killing a lot of young kids because you're right about what you said earlier. It doesn't take much. But the problem with drugs, and coming back to what you said, Kim, you know, trying to find it and where am I going to get the money for it? Well, I mean, you start off with a little bit of heroin and then it moves to a little more and a little more because you're chasing that high and your body gets used to it. It's like my my father-in-law who has passed away, but he had diabetic neuropathy super bad. Like, I mean, to the point where it would just drive him absolutely insane. And he was on narcotics for it, prescribed narcotics. But when Amy and I got together, he was on like oxycodone, like a low dose of it, and that would knock it out, and he was productive. And before he died, he was on 60 milligrams of slow release morphine daily.
Damn.
With hydrocodone and something else during the day because he could only take so much morphine, but he had worked himself up to that level, and it was the only thing that would work because he was on Lyrica and all the other stuff, and his problem was not necessarily that it just progressed. It was the fact that he never changed his lifestyle and kept just doing whatever he was doing. But yeah, so you're chasing, you know, you need more and more heroin, more and more fentanyl, and you know,
And then the things that you'll do.
oh yeah, because you need that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as a cigarette smoker that I've been, 2 days without smoking a cigarette. It's driving me insane, except intensify that.
So then comes in the sex factors because it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
The what factors?
Sex factor.
Yeah.
You know, it all goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can. So I really do think it's a good idea to dedicate a show to drug addiction, the statistics that are out there, and what can be done, what has been done, and things like that. And Bill, you said this before a couple of times on the show. We need to model after successful programs and things like that, because if you try to reinvent the wheel, let's be honest, there were a lot of failures before we got to the Goodyear status.
Yep.
So I definitely agree that we need to look at successful programs, the communities that they were built in, because communities are unique. What works in one community is not going to work in every community, but at least you have a good, successful starting point.
Yeah. I think that if you're just trying to create some program from scratch, it's literally just to pat yourself on the back and get reelected. And I don't have anything against local politicians or anything like that, but like literally, if you're not going and looking at the several successful cities that have implemented these programs, and yes, maybe they have to tweak them to fit different things. And there's a lot of work that you got to do to get people on board.
It would have to be tweaked.
Absolutely.
Because just Granite City alone, in just this area right here, community care, how many food pantries can you count?
Oh yeah. But see, you need to get those folks on board.
That's the abortion clinic. There's so many self-help places,
and they all have a different agenda,
and they're all abused.
Absolutely. Well, it's just like
we need to have this show, and I'm all about it, but it should never be on the same weekend that I have chased tweakers around this town.
Oh yeah, it's a little touchy subject for you right now, folks. If you're,
I feel like the lady from Terms of Endearment, and only people my age will get this.
I think
I have more insurance and bigger balls. I will run you the.
I think what you have to keep in mind is that you're always going to have those people that don't want to get out of the situation that they're in.
Always, there's them.
But you can't judge every one of them as if they are the same person as the person that wants to lie, rape, steal, murder, whatever. Like there are people out there that have gotten themselves into a rut for one reason or another, and we don't know those reasons, and those ruts are hard to get out of.
And we can't blame it on generational.
No.
In some cases, yes. But I don't know that that's the norm. Do you think that?
I don't know that it's the norm. I think that environmental situations as you're growing up can play a definite role in how you grow up. But I do think that there's the opportunity, at least at some point. I actually believe that there's the opportunity in more than 1 or 2 points in your life to break that cycle where you come to a point.
Show.
I know a couple people that are actually in the addiction counseling.
Okay.
I know
reach
some
out to
Celebrate
them.
Recovery people too.
Yeah, so I think that's
show.
something that we can do. But I do believe that every person has the opportunity to break that cycle, and either they do, they don't, or they don't know that they can. And I think that those are the people that have the best hope of changing it. The ones that don't know that they can.
Well, and I think that
here's hoping for them.
Yeah, I think that you got to look at it as a factor of what's easier. It's easier for me to stay in the routine and stay high than deal with my emotions, feelings, and the work that it's going to take to not be high. Yeah. Kind of like somebody that gets their leg amputated. It's going to take a lot of work for me to get in and walk on this prosthetic leg. It's completely possible. In fact, I could run a marathon if I put the work in, but it's easier for me to sit in the wheelchair.
Great analogy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely easier for me to sit in the wheelchair. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything to stop smoking weed. I don't have to do anything to stop shooting heroin other than just keep acquiring the heroin. But I have to do a lot to quit it. It's not just to turn it off.
Yeah.
And I think people need to understand that, people from the outside that are looking at all these junkies. Yes, junkies, but stopping heroin is not just stopping heroin.
Right.
It's not.
They may be junkies, but they still have value.
And I would also challenge you to look at the little bitty habits that you do, whether that be smoking or your habit for caffeine or your habit for this or your habit for that, and be like, okay, is it easier for you to just keep doing that? Like, you need to stop smoking. Smoking leads to nothing but lung cancer and death.
Eating tacos, right?
But you keep doing it. Don't quit eating tacos. Tacos are amazing.
Coca-Cola. There's mine right there.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we've had a great show tonight. I think, just the three of us. Yeah. But, we always invite guests also. Absolutely. And we're going to reach out. I think we are going to have that addiction show.
Oh, I'd love to.
I think it's an important one. Mm-hmm. So, thank you for joining us this evening. And, guys, we're always going to be here Monday at 7:15. And, again, we're coming to you live here from Studio B. Right here in your own hometown if you're watching us in Granite. And even if you've got something that you want to say, you want to pre-record it, the GCRX Podcast Network is always happy to accommodate that as well and just kind of give you a platform and maybe some mentorship a little bit on getting that started and just kind of getting your word out there. So, I'll reach out to some of my friends. And, guys, we always encourage participation in what we're doing here. And, we'll get to, what was that? We'll get those links out there during every show. And, come and join us. You can come watch us live also right here at the big window that Tomas put that in, right?
Yes.
Yep. Tomas put in here for us. It's more for you than for us because we could do this in a room without no window, but the window kind of helps and makes it a little more exciting for you guys. Yep. So awesome, guys. We will see you next week, 7:15, Monday night, right here on In the Metro, 6204 LLC, and my personal Facebook page as well.